Hi and welcome everyone. In this tutorial, I wanted to talk to you about something that is so important in regards to design and floral design, and that is colour and colour harmony. If you've watched a few of my tutorials now, you'll know that I have this kind of weird obsession about colour. I talk about how certain colours talk to each other, all of those things, because it's one of just the premium element, I think, in your elements and principles of design that really has an emotional effect on people, but also just in regards to the overall cohesiveness of your design. And it's not just colour within the design itself and the way the flowers talk to each other, but it's also acknowledging and understanding how that colour palette works within the space that you're in as well, and the room and the overall aesthetic where this design is going. So lots to talk about here. When I used to teach this at a certificate 4 level in college, and we would talk about colour for a whole term. So I'm attempting today to condense this into some short, sharp, little demonstrations and conversations around a very simple bouquet, because I want you to see those colours actually in an arrangement, albeit a very simple design. So let's get started. First of all, I wanted to talk to you about monochromatic colour harmony. Now, if you haven't got a colour wheel, I highly recommend that you get one. As a designer, you really need to understand the way colour works, the way it speaks to people, and also how to use it well and how to be brave with your colour. It's important that you understand how colour works. So highly recommend you get yourself a colour wheel. I have added design notes in this one, a very comprehensive document that you can download about colour and colour harmonies. So if you're not sure about anything that we talk about today, make sure that you have a look at that as well. So first of all, we're talking about a monochromatic colour harmony. And mono meaning one. Now this can be in regards to pinks or blues or yellows or oranges. It doesn't matter what colour it is, as long as you're moving from a pale to a dark tone of the same colour or of the same line on the colour wheel. But we also talk about that in regards to mono being, say, a white and green bouquets. Now, not to confuse you, but white actually isn't considered a colour on the colour wheel. It's a neutral. White, grey, black are all neutrals on the colour wheel, which means that you can add white and grey and black to any colour harmony and it won't be incorrect or it won't be wrong. But to start with this conversation, I wanted to show you a monochromatic bouquet of just whites and greens. And I've just, as I said, just made it really, really simple. We've got variations of that green into a really bright white, but also you'll see there's a tiny little bit of yellow in these aquilegias. And that talks beautifully to the white poppies. So even though we're maybe dancing with breaking a rule, I did want to just show you by bringing in another white, essentially, that has that little hint of yellow, then that picks up the little bit of yellow in the aquilegia. Still means it's monochromatic, and it still means that it is a one colour harmony bouquet. Okay, so I wanted to also share with you a monochromatic in a colour. Now that I've showed you the monochromatic in a neutral, I wanted to make sure that you understand what monochromatic means. And this, personally, this is the colour harmony that I gravitate towards the most. Once I have one particular flower, it just could be one element, and then it's just natural for my eye to move to a darker or a lighter shade and tone of that one colour. Now, this obviously is pink, and you'll find pink on the red quadrant of your color wheel, and you'll see that your red, once you add white and you add a little bit more white, a little bit more white, you move into that pink. And then if you add a little bit more black, a little bit more black, you move into that burgundy and those darker, dusty, pinky tones. And that's essentially what this is here, a monochromatic color scheme in a pink tones. And even bringing in this kangaroo paw, you can see then I can also bring in this darker burgundy kangaroo paw, and then that ties in really beautifully with the darker status. So as I said, this one probably appeals to me the most, I would say, out of every Colour Harmony. It's just one that I just kind of, I don't know, my eyes like it, I guess. Not necessarily pink, but just that sense of moving with one colour, but darker and lighter tones of that one colour. Now I'd like to share with you my thoughts on not necessarily a colour harmony, but a rule that I think you should really consider when you're putting your bouquets together. Now, within the realms of colour, we have bright, what we call hot colours, and we also have pastels of that same tone. So if you can imagine, you know, yellow is a classic example. I've got a hot, bright yellow poppy here, and then I've got almost buttery pastel yellow aqualegias. You can see how soft they are. Now, as a rule, I think you should really consider that once you start, you've made the decision to work with hot, bright colours, stay there. It doesn't mean that you have to have all yellow or all orange. Some of the most beautiful colour combinations are right here, where you've got hot purple, hot orange, hot yellow, hot pink. You can see how dynamic that is, and every flower is having its moment in the sun, so to speak, and every flower is shining. No one is taking over anyone else. They're all fighting for your attention, but they're doing it beautifully together. And the same with your pastels. You know, when you've got these beautiful pastel tones together, you can see how lovely and cohesive they are together. You know, think about mauve and pale pink and butter yellow and apricot. All of those tones are beautiful together too. The mistake I see people making is once they go into this hot realm and then you try to add in, you know, these pastel tones, you can see that they just grey out. They just disappear. They don't sing at all. They just completely wash out. Whereas if you've got all your pastels together, they all sing. You've got all your hot colours together, and they do as well. There's only one, I guess, area that we can break that rule, and that's if we go down the monochromatic road. And that's when, say we were, for instance, using yellows, we can go yellow, we've got that bright yellow, we're going to move into that paler yellow and into, you know, this aquilegia, then into say, you know, almost greeny whites, and you can see that that can work beautifully together. So pastels and brights only when you're in a monochromatic colour harmony. Every single colour if you want to stay in your hot realm, and every colour if you want to stay in your pastel realm. I hope that makes sense. Now we're looking at the Analogous colour harmony. So this one on the colour wheel is the three colours that are directly adjacent to each other on the wheel. So for this instance, we're looking at orange to yellows to lime yellow into green. And they're the three that run beside each other. They can still be lighter and darker tones of those colours. They don't all need to be hot, but you'll see that there are definite different colours down on the wheel. So we've got orange in the ranunculus and the poppies, moving into a darker yellow and then a pale yellow, and then bringing in a little bit more of that limey green with the carnations and the columbines. And another thing to consider too is that you can bring in your wrap and your ribbons to change that colour harmony. So you might find that you've got a bouquet that's almost all orange, but then when you wrap it with lemons and green and limey green, you're actually creating a whole bouquet that's an analogous colour scheme. So You know, for me, orange is actually one of my least favorite colored flowers, if I can say that. But when I have it in a color harmony like this, where it's talking to these other elements and you can see, you know, those tones work together, I think that just makes orange sing. That bouquet I love. So yeah, I hope you'll consider an analogous colour scheme, the 3 colours that are adjacent to each other on the wheel. With this colour harmony, I wanted to share with you a complementary colour harmony. So this is when we're looking at the colour wheel and we're looking at a colour that's directly opposite each other. So for this instance, we're going to be using purple and yellow. Now, nature does this beautifully well. You might think that's a little bit scary. We're really starting to delve into some interesting colour schemes here. But nature does this already. If you can think of a blue-purple iris, you'll see there's a yellow stripe in the centre. Another flower that's iconically complementary is a bird of paradise. And I mean, how amazing are they? And so striking and so intense in their colour, and it works perfectly. So really, I just want you to think of these colour harmonies as a set of rules and guidelines to help you when you're designing, whether you're designing for a certain space and a certain aesthetic, or when you're, you know, putting together just your own designs for your own home or for a client. It's important that you have a clear understanding of colour. So with this one, you can see beautiful, could be considered monochromatic right here. And we're going to bring in these pops of yellow. And you'll see that it just completely changes and morphs into something absolutely beautiful, I think, but a little bit surprising. And with having those set of guidelines within understanding your colour wheel and understanding your colour harmonies, it opens up a whole new world of design for you, because you won't necessarily just get trapped into designing colours that you'd like all the time. You know, it's good to be able to stretch out and do something completely different. And you know, I love this together. I think that really, you know, they complement each other. That's why it's called a complementary colour scheme. Okay, so complementary colour scheme, looking at the colours on the wheel that are directly opposite each other. And the final colour harmony that I wanted to talk to you about today is a split complementary, and that's looking at 3 areas of the colour wheel that are almost in a direct triangle. And a great representation of that is my design that you'll find much further up in the library, and that is my Spring Harvest centerpiece design. You'll see that we use a huge range of colours in that, and basically a triadic or a split complementary colour harmony is almost touching on every colour on the wheel. I guess it's the brightest combination that we can put together. So let's add just one more element so I can show you how we can transform this complementary colour harmony bouquet into a split complementary. And that's by bringing in these amazing peonies from Tasmania, the first peonies of the season. It's always such a delight to have them. And you can see now how that just absolutely pops this bouquet. Also the fact that, I don't know if you can see the center's yellow. So by bringing in this gorgeous, you know, hot pink with yellow center peony, this transforms this bouquet now into a split complementary colour harmony. Okay, that's beautiful. Don't those peonies just pop in with all that other colour around them? Okay, so I hope this has allowed you to feel brave by using colour. It's important that you understand colour as a designer, and you're not just throwing things together because you think they kind of look good. I hear that so often, that that students just feel a little unsure and a little bit nervous about using certain colours together and they're not sure if it works. That's what your colour harmonies are for. That's what your colour wheel is for. It's there to support you and to give you a guideline, and ultimately we only have to use nature for inspiration because she always gets it right. All right, pop your comments in. I'll add a very detailed design notes for this one because I know there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of crossover. So I want to make sure that you're really clear and you're really, you know, got some really quality education there in regards to colour. It's important. All right, everyone. See you later.